Welcome to the crossover, a Thursday edition, and boy, oh boy, do we have a extremely special guest joining me today. Happy to have you here, everybody. A little bit somber today on this Thursday with the Kings losing last night at home, losing Game 5. Now the Warriors are in command of the series, up 3-2, heading back to Golden State tomorrow. Kings hoping to push it to a Game 6. If it's your first time here at the crossover, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. If you're listening on the audio version, make sure that you also subscribe and leave a review. We really appreciate it. And as you always know, we love to make you part of the show. So put your questions in the chat and we will get those up on the screen. But without any further ado, my guest today, former Sacramento Kings coach, Sacramento Kings general manager, Sacramento legend, former analysis with the Kings for many, many years, and a good friend. I appreciate him so much for doing this. Currently has his own podcast called The Old Fashioned 3. Go check that out on most streaming sites. My guest is the man, Mr. Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, how you doing?
Great, Ryan. Good to be with you today. Beautiful day here in Roseville, and even though what happened last night did took a little while to get over, but there'll be better days ahead.
Yeah, there will be. It was funny because we were doing Grant's show yesterday, and I think the mood was kind of tense-ish, kind of somber, nervous. I mean, there was a weird feeling yesterday, huh, Jerry?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that most of us, or a lot of us, felt that the Kings would be able to find a way to win that game. Uh, it was a case where the Kings couldn't. Credit to the Warriors. I thought they did play the better game.
Yep.
Probably got a couple of whistles go their way, a few more than maybe the Kings got, I thought. But when Clay and Steph Curry and Wiggins and Draymond and Looney are all playing at their best, and they all did, they're a serious contender. It has very little to do with the Kings because the Kings are, I still think, a team that's they're in progress. They're a team that's obviously not quite a finished product yet.
Yeah.
The Warriors really are, and it's just a matter of how long they can stay an elite team.
Yeah, Jerry. I mean, we kind of forget that the Kings are in progress, right? This is kind of the building blocks and the start to what could be a very bright future based off of what we've seen the last year or two. But when you talk about the Warriors and you bring up an excellent point, do you think the Warriors are playing the best basketball in the Western Conference right now?
I do. I've watched about all the games, and I honestly think, with the team they currently have, I mean, I think that so much of what was put on the Warriors, that was without Gary Payton, that was without Wiggins.
Yeah.
Their road record with, that wasn't their team. They when they started this playoff series, they had their team, and clearly, the team they had before Wiggins came back or Peyton joined them and could play, that wasn't the same level of team. And so, yeah, we're seeing a team right now that, I'm not saying they'll win another championship, but you can see why they're the defending champs.
Yeah, and they went out at the trade deadline and got Peyton, and there's some questions about his health because he wasn't going to pass a physical. And you look at how those little moves can make a really big difference for a team. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and start talking about the offseason, but looking back to the trade deadline this year, do you think there were any small moves that could have made that big impact like Peyton has had on the Warriors?
Well, I thought at first maybe the Kessler Edwards addition would, and they did. It helped in a very small way, a regular season kind of thing. But were there moves out there that they could have done? You have no way of knowing unless you're in the room. I mean, I was one of those people that when I saw that the Lakers got Vanderbilt, he's the kind of player I thought would be a terrific addition for the
Sure.
Kings. I don't know, what they'd have had to do if they were even interested in him, but to me, that was about the only thing they needed to do to get another lively power guy, and that sort of thing would have strengthened them. Whether it would have made them a lot better, I have no idea. And I think that will be the charge for Monty McNair and Mike Brown during the off season to say, we've what we need to do to get better, because that's why you get in the playoffs, is to
Right.
find out, okay, what are the problems. A lot of the regular season you don't really understand your weaknesses as clearly, and those get exposed. I've always said that's what fans forgot, that when the team really turned back in the late 90s, uh, and they got into three straight playoffs, but they really got better yet by trading. They went on and traded Corliss Williamson and Jason Williams from those really good teams, and
Right.
then got Christie and Bibby, and they got better. And I said, and those were trades that benefited those Corliss Williamson and Jason Williams too,
Yeah.
because they played on championship teams later. But the
Yep.
Kings got better. They felt they had to do that to really accentuate Peja Stojakovic's particular skills, and really they just needed a more consistent scorer like a Mike Bibby to play. And of course, Christie was a terrific defender. So
Yeah.
and that's the kind of thing I think that the Kings will have to think about. Is that it's just by increments. You're not likely to go get Damian Lillard,
No. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
$50 million player near the end of his career. So they're looking for, I would think, probably a young, uh, third or fourth year player that looks like he's on the rise.
Sure.
I mean, it's like the Utah Jazz getting Laurie Marketing,
Right.
a guy that
Yep.
two teams had and erroneously gave up on, and clearly a young star now. And
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, you get those guys, and you have to. In my opinion, I've got a lot of faith in Monty and his staff. I think they've been good about identifying those people.
Yeah, Jerry, you're right. They've found talent in areas that we haven't even thought about. Kessler Edwards, right? They basically get him for free on an expiring exception, and they got money back for him. So when you have a team, I'm going to ask you to put your GM hat on because you have been a GM for this team. When you have a team and you notice that there's very good chemistry between those walls in the locker room and on the court, and it translates there, how delicate is it when you are looking at making additions or subtractions to the roster?
Well, that's a great question, because I think a lot of times people don't really look into that, and you have to, because yeah, you might could bring on a more talented player than that you've got right now, but it might not fit.
Yeah.
It might. I always remember the first year I was with the Kings, I was an assistant coach, and we went to the playoffs that very first year, and really had a great chemistry. Enough youth that I'm not saying it would have been a championship team, but if it left it alone, it would have been a playoff team for 3 or 4 years. I'm convinced. The guys liked one another. You had some star type talent, and Reggie Theus and Eddie Johnson,
Hmm.
for instance, that type thing. But they decided to make a big trade to get Derek Smith and gave up Mike Woodson, Larry Drew, two key guys, as well as flip flop draft picks, and the team really didn't recover for years. And
Yeah.
you know, the player they got would maybe more talented than anybody they trade away, but he didn't. He just didn't fit. Derek Smith never fit with this team. He didn't want to, and so that's what you got to be careful about. They always saying, "Well, it can't get any worse." Yes, it can. It can always get worse, and so
Yeah.
yeah, I think with the great, and this team has great chemistry, just
Yes, they
great
do.
chemistry. So you'd want to find somebody that you're pretty sure uh, has kind of the like mind that would fit in. You got playing time for him. His skills fit what you need, and he fits with your main guys.
Yeah, and it seems like, and Jerry Reynolds joining the crossover today. Jerry, it seems like a lot of these guys the team. It seems like anybody short of like a Kyrie Irving personality, or a player of that magnitude, or Russ Westbrook, that can be difficult in the locker room. this team seems like they could fit around just about anybody. So
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think that's a great point. I mean, I think by and large, unless the guy's got some real issues himself,
yeah,
uh, this team would embrace him and probably it would be just fine. I can't imagine. And I think there's some guys like that. Don't get me wrong.
sure.
There are guys like that in the league, but I think with the current staff the Kings have, they could find the information out they need. But and really what they're looking for is another guy that could be a 30-minute guy and provide in my mind rebounding can protect the basket better and still be a 3-point shooter. I mean, I think that's why I look at things now,
Yeah.
boy. With if you really almost need four guys on the floor all the time who can shoot threes.
Yeah, you do. You're absolutely right. But that's almost what the NBA is now. Almost everyone can shoot the three ball at this point, which is why we're seeing ridiculous scores. Well, enough about the building the teams and what could come in the future. Let's talk about the now in game 5, Jerry. What did you notice from De'Aaron and how did you think he looked last night?
Thought the first half he looked great. He looked as good as he's looked all year. He was making shots, getting places on the floor, looked comfortable. Did notice once, late in the first half, he kind of grabbed his his finger,
Yeah.
and I thought the second half he definitely was not the same player. He was sure trying, but I think probably the adrenaline and Tylenol, things like that, wore
Yeah.
off. And I thought it really affected his dribble. He made quite a few turnovers, uh, more than I think he would normally, and I thought it affected his dribble a great deal. It's hard to say about his shot, even though he wasn't shooting well, but most of the balls looked pretty good to me. Uh, so that was my concern going in. I thought more about catching passes and dribbling than shooting because there's a definite stress on the finger when you're dribbling the ball at a high pace, as you know. So,
No doubt.
and I really thought that, in fact, is he even lost a couple of dribbles when that he just wouldn't have done
Yeah.
likely in the past.
Yeah, he was even in the first half, you could tell he was not as quick and explosive with the ball. And it had nothing to do with the legs, it's just the ball handling. You can't be as sleight of hand when you've got a brace on your finger basically or a splint, which makes it very tough. So here I guess the question is I'm going to have you put your coach's hat now on. So where is that line, Jerry? And I know it's probably with every individual player. If a player you can tell really is not able to contribute, but they want to be on the floor, how do you negotiate that with a star player like De'Aaron Fox?
Well, I think you rely on them a great deal now, and the medical personnel. If they say he's capable of playing, it won't hurt him to play, and he wants to play,
Mm-hmm.
then I think you should probably play him. But you full well know that he's probably not going to be 100%. Well, what that means is maybe you don't play him as much, or you try to control things a little better. But I think it's really risky on the part of a coach to try to tell a player he can't play when he feels he can, even though he knows he's injured a little bit. Been like if earlier in the year if they had told Sabonis you got to have the operation, you're going
Right.
to miss 3 months.
Right.
Well, it was certainly what would have done to the team and Sabonis. Even though he probably affects him to some degree. So I always I always kind of agree with the old Jerry Salone statement. He used to say, when guys were injured, he always said, "Hey, if the medical people say he's injured and he says he's injured, he's injured. I don't put another thought in it. And if the medical people say he can play and he says he can play, he's going to play." And
Yeah.
I've always agreed with that. I think that makes, in simplified terms, that's probably the way it ought to be.
Yeah, and they're professionals too. They don't want to hurt their team either, and so I understand a lot of trust goes into your medical professionals there, and then obviously just the relationship with the player. So I think you bring up great points there. So I think we got, or I should say, the Kings got the Warriors A game last night. I don't see how the Warriors could really play better short of them shooting the ball out of the gym, but everybody contributed at the right times. I thought there was great shot making. I really felt like that was so much of the Warriors for one of the first times this series beating the Kings rather than the Kings beating the Kings.
Yeah, I agree. The thing that struck me with the last night's game is the Warriors were much better with assist to turnover ratio
Yes.
than the Kings. And generally speaking, you would expect that to be just opposite. But the Kings
Yes.
were the sloppier team with the ball. Some of it credit to the Warriors' defense. I don't want to be unfair. I think
Right.
they are better defensively than people think, especially when playoff time comes. And but the Kings were really careless with the ball. They had about 5-6 turnovers. I thought the main two guys, Sabonis and Fox, really made 2 or 3 turnovers each. That just is not in their skill set. So I thought that was true with the Kings, and conversely with the Warriors, I agree with you. I thought they had their A game. I mean,
Yeah.
when Draymond Green can come off the bench and score 20, and he was a very good player last night. He really was. Of course, I
Yeah.
thought they ought to called a couple technicals on him for. I don't know why officials swallowed their whistles against him. I still don't understand that, but he was terrific. And of course, your stars Curry and Thompson were just who you thought they were, and Looney, he's the real kind of forgotten hero, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I give Coach Kerr a lot of credit. I thought they really played it well, where Looney was always protecting the basket,
Yep.
and I kind of honestly, I kind of wish Coach Brown to do the same thing with Sabonis. Don't have him out there chasing wings around. Uh, just give Looney anything he wants, but protect the basket with cutters and rebound positioning, because
Yeah.
that's really the kind of the difference in some ways.
Yeah, no, excellent point. And that kind of brings me to my next question. She brought up Sabonis. I'm going to throw a number out to you. Sabonis in this series is a negative 38 when he has been on the floor, which is confounding to me. We all know why, because we're watching. But what does he have to do to adjust to the way the Warriors are playing him? And credit to Steve Kerr. This was an excellent preparation and execution of a plan to take Sabonis a little bit out of the game and the Kings out of their offense. But what do you do at this point for Domas to be successful in Game 6 and give the Kings a chance to bring it back to 7?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that struck me. I looked at his stats, and overall, it's interesting because in the playoffs, he really isn't that much off his normal stats,
Yeah.
but he is off slightly.
Yeah.
And where he's off the most, and I think that's the difference, is on assist to turnovers.
Yep.
Whereas he's always been a 7 to 2.5 guy, and now he's about a 4 to 4 guy, and a lot of that is what the Warriors are doing, not necessarily what he's doing. Uh, but I think in my mind is, of course, the assist part's tough, because you can make good passes to open shooters. If they don't make shots, you don't get an assist, and that's a part of it,
Yeah.
because he's still doing that, but open 3-point shooters aren't making open 3-point shots,
Sure.
so you can't blame him for that. But the turnovers, I think, and I think they could do some things to cut down on that and be maybe a little more efficient, as opposed to trying to do the dribble handoffs, which haven't really worked as well. I think that especially with Herter and Monk or Fox, but do more pick and rolls.
Yes.
I would do a lot more high pick and roll, because he sets great screens. He's good going to the basket, and of course Monk or Fox, coming off of that screen, they're extremely dangerous themselves. And then if you want to do the dribble handoffs, I'd do them strictly with Keegan Murray.
Keegan, yeah.
I think the team has got to find ways to help him get shots. He's not going to force a shot. And I know fans get frustrated with him. I do too, but I love him. But I mean, it's like, well, yeah, sometimes the free flowing offense forgets certain guys, and he's a guy that he had a great shooting game. He just didn't get enough shots. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, well, don't count on the defense giving him shots. Go get him shots.
Right, Jerry. And I think you hit the nail or the nail on the screws right there because you're talking about a free flowing offense and you're talking about the dribble handoffs. The dribble handoffs have not been happening nearly as frequently as they were when the Kings run their offense against other teams. And I think guys like Herter, I'm going to leave Keegan out of it to a degree because he's a very good set shooter. But a lot of the other guys that are coming off those handoffs, they're used to coming off and getting their shot in motion and not getting their shot in a set shot motion. And we've seen the Kings struggle throughout the season when they play zone or they're played against his own defense.
Yeah.
And it's set threes. And so I don't know if there's anything you can really do to try to increase that offense and increase what the Kings want to do with the way the Warriors are playing them.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing very well, and like I say, with all the space they're giving Domas, the only thing I'd suggest to Domas is go at either take that little
Yeah.
15-footer, which he did, and he can make
Yeah.
enough of them, but go at Looney, and once you but be understand that the second defender is going to come at him. He's not likely to get an open shot at the basket because he's going to get doubled. Well, kick it out for the double to set, find the wide open shooters, and they'll be there in the short corners. And so I think so. There's little things, and
Sure.
I mean, but to your point, that's the danger of the free flowing offense, is that you get used to doing things a certain way, and that's where I like sometimes even as great offenses as the Kings have a structure, have a couple of really set plays that you can run and get a basket or get a shot. And I
Yeah.
think the Warriors do that. They'll have a
Mhm.
couple of things they'll run to get Clay a shot, or get Curry the ball in a position to where he can operate. So I think the Kings have got to do a little more of that. And two, the fairness with the Warriors, they've been doing this so long, it may not be called by the coach. It just it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been together so long, they can
Yeah.
read each other so well, and the Kings just aren't there yet. They can't be.
No, but you know what? They're on their way to possibly let's say going down that road because we are talking about a dynasty in Golden State. They've won 4 of the last 8. So, Jerry, when you get this deep into a series now going into game 6 in Golden State, as a coach, I mean, are there any more adjustments that can really be made? I mean, you've already seen the team 5 times. What's your mindset as a coach now?
There's not much you can do at this stage. I think both
Yeah.
teams really know each other. I think if you're Mike Brown, you're saying, "Hey guys, uh, this is who we are. These are the things we can do well against these guys. So let's do them better." Just as simple as, hey, make sure that we take better care of the ball. If we do that, make more of our open shots, we can win the game. And he's exactly right. It is a big change. In other words, all of a sudden, you have a game of hitting 40% of your threes,
Yeah.
you're going to win, most likely. That hadn't happened, but this team is capable of that. We know Herter's capable of having breakout games. We know, Monk's been everything you could have hoped for, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, you know, Davion has been what you'd expect. So, just a little improvement and hope for a little better performances from Fox and Sabonis and Harrison Barnes. I think, that's, you got a right to expect that. I'm not saying they need to get a lot better, but just slightly better from those three main guys, and you're going to have a chance to uh, win in Golden State, and then if you can win there, you can win here. So it doesn't change how good they are because they're plenty good, and you'll have to play your A game in order to have a chance to beat them, just to have a chance to beat them.
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. And Jerry's joining us, Jerry Reynolds, for just a few more minutes. So, last night, game 5, to me, it felt like game 7 to a degree because it was the game that guarantees we would have got to 7, right? It lets you breathe a little bit easier. And they have the daunting task of going into Golden State. But I guess a lot of fans are already counting this team out. Media counting this team out. In a sense, does this team maybe feel a little bit looser and not as much pressure because they lost Game 5? Fox's finger is injured. We're going to give it our best shots. Everybody's counting us out. Can that be a benefit to them?
Well, it can. I mean, I do think Coach Brown will be great about keeping them loose and understand that, what's at hand. The pressure really is, even though the Kings are the higher rated team, the pressure's on the defending champions to close out at home.
Good point.
And because they don't want to come back to Golden One. And I'd certainly stress that. Just remember, guys, these guys, we know how good they are, but there is probably real pressure on them for the first time and to close out at home because they don't want to have to come back to Sacramento. So, I think you kind of, how much it really means, I don't know, but I think that's what you stress, and I think, just for instance, who thought Miami was going to come back and win 2 straight games against the number 1 Bucks? But they did. And they came, on both last 2 games, big margins behind in the fourth quarter, but they did. And so, I always say that's why you play the games. And we were talking about last night. I mean, really, the Warriors are very healthy. They have had no issues health wise. And I'm not asking for that to happen, but we know that's a possibility. Injuries are always or sickness. Things happen to people. And so that could still change the whole thing around. And Kings have kind of had to go through some tough things. I mean, certainly with the Fox situation, it's difficult, but so it's not over. And the Kings are capable of winning 2 in a row against. We've seen it, so they are capable. It's just you can't have a B game, or you can't count on them missing open shots, or Steph Curry calling the technical when you don't have one. You better not count on that. That ship sailed. But so I'm just all I say, hey, this guy, go be who you were. Just take care of the ball better. And you'll have a chance.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's the Kings all year. It's been assists to turnovers. When they are around 30 assists and their turnovers are below 10, that's usually a W for the Kings, no matter who they're playing. So I'm going to get you out of here with just a couple questions, but I got to ask, all things considered, with injuries this season across the league, everything that's gone on, parity, load management, suspensions, and now the wackiness of the first round. So many stars getting suspended, getting injured. Is this the most wide open NBA playoffs that two-part question. The most odd NBA season you've seen, and 2, the most wide open NBA playoffs you've seen, where really any team, there's no favorite to win the NBA championship.
My answer to that, since I've been in the league in '85, would be yes and yes.
Wow.
I mean, really, I've never seen it this convoluted, so to speak, with so many main guys out for extended periods. Clearly, there's no team that would scare you.
No.
I mean, really, it's still very possible for the Kings to win the world championship. I mean, they're behind.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Warriors are as good as anybody, and they don't scare you. Denver Nuggets are the top seed in the West. Why would you be scared to play them? Phoenix, I thought would be scary, but they haven't been.
No.
And certainly in the East, I mean, Atlanta goes right into Boston and beats them without DeJounte Murray, which I've got to. Of course, I think Bogey's better than he is anyway as a natural fit with Trae Young. That's just my opinion.
Right.
But, and Murray's the better player. But anyway, but that's what you're seeing, and of course, Milwaukee already beat by a team that, Miami, who really had to win a play-in game in order to get to play them, because I think they got beat by Atlanta.
Yeah, they lost the first play-in game.
I think that's right. I'm not sure.
No, you're right. They lost the first play-in game.
So it is truly wide open. I mean, before this all started, I thought, well, the three best teams in the league were Philly, Boston, and Milwaukee. I thought all three of the best teams were in the East, with uh, uh, probably Phoenix would be the best in the West but they haven't really put it together. So that's still no, and they have no bench.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. But that's a great question, and yes, I have never seen it like this. I
It,
mean, invariably, you always had some teams that you just knew were kind of better than, or two or three that were contenders, and one would have won 64-5 games,
sure.
something like that, when the top team in the West won what 53, and the top team in the East 58. That shows you there's not real true power. I mean, who I wouldn't sit here and tell you that the New York Knicks couldn't win the world championship because
I,
they could.
yeah,
And I mean, they
absolutely.
shouldn't be able to in normal years,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of year it is. I think it makes it fun. I think it makes it fun on a short term basis. I would prefer to see the more situations where you got three or four really terrific world class teams, and of course, hopefully, that Kings would be one of them.
Right.
But
Right.
but that I just think it truly is wide open. I don't think anybody can have you could guess, but that's all it is at this stage of who might be the ultimate winner.
Yeah, and to a couple of your points, Phoenix, they just don't look interested. Like in that series with the Clippers, it is almost like they had to be out on the court playing. It was slow, and I don't know if does Durant look like he's kind of lost a step to you, Jerry? He doesn't seem like the
I was
same
going to say
Durant.
that. I really kind of get the feeling that he's feeling. He just doesn't seem fully integrated into the thing.
Yeah,
It's like I was watching the game when, of course, Booker's going crazy, but Durant's over there standing around watching. They're really not running a lot of offense. They're just kind of doing different ISOs for guys,
right,
and I think I've always said that's one thing about Durant. He's a team guy. He'll get his 30, but it's easy enough. So I think that bears watching. I think that bears watching. That we'll see. But I kind of spotted the same thing you did. I didn't see the jubilant Kevin Durant after the win.
yeah,
Let's put it that, or during the
yeah.
game.
Yeah, or like that killer, like where he'll just he gets that look in his eyes and it is go time. And he's pulling up for threes and you just can't stop him. So,
Yeah, no, I
uh
agree. I thought we had a couple of times there. It's like he got the ball after 4 or 5 minutes and said, "Oh, okay, you want me to shoot now?" Type thing, and went and
yeah.
scored a basket. But
Yeah.
so we'll see. I might be reading too much into it, but I do think that they're just not together yet, and I don't think there's bad guys there or all that. But it usually does take time, and I think we all just looked at it from a talent standpoint. Said, "Boy, those guys will be terrific."
Sure.
And they would be if they're all together, but I don't think they are yet. That's why they're lucky to kind of get through the Clippers with nobody available for them, their
Yeah.
main guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, Durant missed those. It was 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks with the
Yeah,
ankle injury. So they're just trying to kind of get into the flow of things. But I do like the parity is a nice change. It's fun to see teams like New York, fun to see teams like Sacramento, just because it's a logical thought. Could they win the championship? Could
yeah.
they? And you start thinking about who they may play. It's like, well, I could see them beating that team. So it's fun. We'll see what happens. Do you have just off if I asked you today, right now at 3:30 p.m., who would be your pick to win the Larry O this year?
I think I might just go ahead and take the Philadelphia 76ers today.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that'll probably be somebody else tomorrow and the next
Yep.
day. But yeah, I'm like you. I mean, I think it's great to have this balance because as a Kings fan, which I am, you know that if you're not quite good enough today, it's not going to take much to get you. A slight improvement is all you need, plus experience to move certainly into the upper echelon of the whole league for sure. And so
Exactly.
that to me, that you know, is a lot more encouraging. It's not like you're trying to add one piece to play Michael Jordan's Bulls, because one piece wouldn't do it, or
No,
two or three,
4 or 5.
or four or five.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I have kept you way too long, but Jerry, I so appreciate you coming on. I got one last question for you. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and what you're doing these days?
Well, I'm doing a couple of different, of course, with you and Grant on Grant's podcast once a week, and then sometimes after games. So I'm doing that. Then Old Fashioned Three with Whitey Gleason and the Phantom. We do a couple a week, and it's totally different. If you're looking for tremendous insight, you're probably not going to get it. But we try to, we kind of go into different tangents of what happened back in '70, and then what's happening today, and just I have a blast. I don't know if anybody else
Awesome.
does, but I think it'd be fun for basketball fans to tune into. Well, you can get it YouTube or all those things, and then I do one for the King's Herald. It's an independent King's website. I do one every couple of weeks. With the Will Griffin and Tony Zipteris, and strictly Kings related for the most part. So, it's I've kind of, like my wife told me, and she said, "Well, you're doing about 4 or 5 hours a week of a podcast," and I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, even you're not so lazy you can't do that," and so and that's about enough. But that's about enough. So anyway, but yeah, I enjoy obviously with you and Grant, and of course the Whitey and Phantom, and then of course the
Yeah.
King's Herald's a blast. So it's all good for me, especially during basketball. I mean, I I think when after basketball season, I have no interest in anything much other than just laying on my butt.
Yeah, what are we gonna talk about after basketball? That's it
I don't
for
know.
us, right?
I mean, that's for you guys. I was telling Whitey and Phantom, I said, after basketball, you guys, if you want to talk about baseball, it's gonna be the old fashioned two.
Yeah, exactly. I could tell you about my walk routes. You guys wanna talk about that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, anyways, Jerry, thank you so much as always, and we always love having you on the shows with, Grant's channel, and thank you so much for joining me today. I
Well,
really appreciate it.
anytime I can do it, Ryan. I appreciate you, and had a blast.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jerry. We will probably be talking tomorrow, I'm guessing.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks, Jerry.
See ya. Bye.
That is Jerry Reynolds. What a treat to have him join the crossover. Great knowledge, fun guy. And I dare any of you to try and have a conversation or listen to a podcast that Jerry is on and not laugh. He's got great one liners and just a beautiful, great basketball mind, and a Sacramento legend. So very honored to have him on the show today. Just some quick housekeeping for everybody. We will be out at 34 Cantina tomorrow night for the Game 6 watch party. That'll be Grant and I. We're going to be broadcasting live on Grant's channel. Pregame, halftime, and postgame. Come out and see us. They have a beautiful patio area. Beautiful restaurant, great food. It's right there downtown. Watch the game with us, and hang out all night. We'd love to have you. So yeah, come check that out. Game 6, 34 Cantina, Mexican Cantina on O Street in downtown Sacramento. So looking forward to that. Tip off tomorrow night for the Kings is at 5 o'clock. It's a little bit different. It's an early start. They're giving the Lakers the prime time spot. So they are going to be starting at 5, which means pregame will be at 4:30. So again, great episode having Jerry Reynolds on. We're going to continue to have really cool guests here on the crossover. And then obviously all of you who join us live and all of you that listen via Apple Podcasts, I appreciate you so much and appreciate all of your guys' contributions to the show. Well, we will see what the Kings do tomorrow And if the Kings do win tomorrow, it's going to be a quick turnaround. Game 7 will be on Sunday. So just under 48 hours of rest. Well, not even 48 hours, because it's probably going to be 28 hours or 24 hours. It's probably going to be an early game. If it is a game 7, Sunday matinees, ABC usually likes to put those on, in that 12:30, 1-ish time slot. So both teams will have a quick turnaround, like I said. Who does that benefit if we end up in that situation? Well, we can't really say with De'Aaron and his finger. We got to see how he plays in game 6 and really, how that finger is going to react. Can he play in game 6 effectively? Because we were talking about this on the post-game show yesterday. All likelihood is that finger's going to be worse when it comes time to tip tomorrow in Golden State. It's not going to be feeling any better. And, those last 4 or 5 minutes, De'Aaron was definitely having a difficult time. And I think the grand finale, the icing on the cake, was when he deflected that ball on the defensive end, probably around the 4-minute mark, 4:30 mark. And he was just grabbing at his hand the rest of the time. And, everybody's body's different, but I'm sure all of you can relate to some time that you've had a hurt finger or, any other extremity, and, you get hit there, or shoot, even you just stub your toe walking down the hallway. There's a 4 or 5, 6-minute period where it's still kind of bugging you, or, it's kind of pulsating, throbbing. You can only imagine what that was probably like for De'Aaron. So, but, Jerry brought up some really good points about Sabonis. If the changes are going to be made, they have to be made this game. And like Jerry said, there's not a lot of adjustments that really, once you get into the 6th game of a series, not a lot of adjustments you can make. These teams know each other so well. But I guess what I want to say, to kind of sum things up. They don't pay me to talk, do they? Sum everything up is just take a step back. This has been a magical season for the Sacramento Kings. They have far and away exceeded our expectations of them, and they have given us so many fun moments. They've given us hope for the future. They've done it the right way, and they are set up to continue doing it the right way and build this franchise even up further and further and further in the near future. So win or lose tomorrow, win or lose, if there's a game 7, my feelings on this season do not change. They could win a championship, and my feelings will be the exact same as if they lose tomorrow to the Golden State Warriors and their season ends. This has been a special season, probably one of the most special seasons in Sacramento Kings history. I would say it is probably the most memorable Sacramento Kings season since 2002. If you had to put all of this, if you had to put 96, 2002, and this year on a list, it would be 2002 would be at the top. But I think you would have to put this year above 1996. The Kings were, it was the first time the Kings had made the playoffs, playing the Supersonics. And yeah, it was a special atmosphere. It was really, really, it was fun, right? But this year, because it had been so long, it had all the makings of that. Then you throw in a new building that had never seen a playoff game. You throw in a number 3 seed. You throw in 2 All-Stars, Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, likely an All-NBA or All-NBAer. a guy that got MVP votes. You had two other Kings besides the two All-Stars that participated in All-Star Weekend. You sum all of that together, that's a storybook season. The Kings are playing a team right now, and Jerry said it in the interview. The Golden State Warriors are not your number or your normal 6 seed. The Golden State Warriors are probably the best 6 seed in the history of the NBA. And the Golden State Warriors gave the Kings their A game yesterday. You get those contributions from Draymond Green. You get those contributions from Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins. You know what you're going to get from Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. But you get all of the residual guys playing at their absolute best, and you come up a little bit short with a starting point guard who, oh, by the way, when I was listing off the accolades, a starting point guard that has taken his game from all-star to superstar in this series. De'Aaron Fox is a bona fide superstar in this league. You can mention his name with Ja Morant. You can mention his name with those guys that we look at as superstars because he has done that till he broke his finger. And even with his broken finger in that first half, he was and has been the best player in this series. So you take all of that into account, and the Kings still had a chance to win the game against the Warriors' best. So what I'm saying is, Kings fans, tomorrow, win or lose, should be a celebration. Celebrate this team, celebrate the moments that we've had this season, and just enjoy it. Let's take and I'm not saying anybody here is being negative, anybody listening is being negative, but just no negativity. Look at the positive, think back, enjoy it because you deserve it as a fan. So it's been a fun ride. That's it. And who knows? The ride may continue. It very well may. This team could win 2 games in a row. That's not far-fetched. But going into tomorrow, have fun with it. And I hope the Kings have fun with it. I think they will. And you know what? It's going to be it's been great regardless of whether they lose tomorrow. So, anyways, again, we will be doing pregame, halftime, and postgame shows live from 34 Mexican Cantina, downtown Sacramento, O Street. Pregame starts at 4:30. Come check us out. Watch the game with us. Have a bite. Have a drink. We'd love to have you down there. That will be on Grant's channel. If you don't like that, stay tuned to our Twitters for links and such. But thank you all so much for joining the crossover. I am Rhino and Sacktown. Can't wait to talk to you guys again after Game 6. Looking forward to it. And again, a big thanks to Jerry Reynolds for joining the crossover today. Until next time, so long